Hello everyone and welcome to another video from the Tiny Menagerie. There are many small fish to choose from on the market, and quite a lot of them do fall into the Tetra family. But there are not many Tetras out there that have this wonderful near luminescent pale green coloration that we see on Dawn Tetras. They can in fact appear almost ghoulish in the right light and are just perfect for a dimly lit jungle scape. But what are Dawns like to keep, and what kind of setup do they need? Well, Dawn Tetras hail from the wider, more slow-moving waters of Paraguay and Brazil. There they inhabit what can be really quite murky water, often lined with vegetation, although they have been seen shoaling in large numbers out in open waters as well. This fondness for dimmer water might go some way to explaining the white patches that on both the male and female fish are extremely vibrant, of the purest white, especially next to the black on the fins as well, and it really stands out against a darker tank background. They are perfectly brave in a strongly lit tank with a pale substrate, but they look their very best against a darkly decorated tank with a nice dark substrate as well. In these conditions, not only does the green stand out more, but the males also have a very appealing pale peachy pink blush on the underside of their tail, which again just stands out that little bit more in a darker tank. In a very brightly lit tank, they can look a little bit washed out and you'll lose that iridescence from the sides. When it comes to water parameters though, Dawns are extremely hardy and can tolerate really quite poor conditions for an extended period of time, although preferably they do require a pH somewhere between 6 and 8 and a temperature anywhere between 20 and 28. And interestingly, I found that when oxygenation decreases in the tank, such as when certain medications are being used, they are one of the first fish to start showing signs that they are distressed. They will be the one that is up at the surface of the water skimming along, so it seems that they really do prefer well oxygenated waters. Again, possibly thanks to their natural habitat being of slower moving waters, in the home aquarium they are not particularly fond of a strong flow, and they'll tend to always migrate to areas of the tank where there's less current, despite the fact in slower moving waters they seem to always prefer to be out in the open. They will sometimes go into caves under branches when they're exploring around the tank, but I've never seen them go right down to the substrate, and so they do tend to stick to those middle and upper levels. Now, Dawn Tetras are a very small species, and even a big female is only going to max out at about 1 inch from the tip of her nose to the tip of her tail. Despite this though, they are extremely active swimmers and they are very fast, and so as they also need to be kept in a group with at least 6 individuals, being a shoaling species, they do need a larger tank despite that smaller size. Ideally, they'll need to be kept in a tank that is at least 80 centimeters in length, although of course the more space you can give them is always going to be the better. And this space becomes extra important when you consider their personality. At first glance, this very small, green, pink and white fish that's highly active and incredibly hardy might just seem like the perfect tank addition. But in all honesty, sadly they are definitely not suitable for the vast majority of fish keepers. In fact, Dawn Tetras are really quite a specialist species because they are fiendishly aggressive towards any other fish that looks even remotely like themselves. They are in fact highly competitive with each other all the time, and half of the joy of keeping them is watching their near constant chasing and barging and competing with each other. They dip and dive and challenge each other all the time, flaring their little fins and swimming alongside each other to see who's the biggest and the fastest. Males and females are evenly matched, and they will happily fight and squabble with each other just as much as they would somebody who is the same gender as themselves. And they all seem to take this activity and action in their strides, always confident that their speed can keep them safe from each other. But sadly, of course, this is not the case with other fish. Dawns are not messing around when they chase other fish, and is not a harmless little bit of fin nipping neither. Though don't get me wrong, they are also definitely a fin nipping species. But for the most part, Dawns, when they chase other fish, they are going for the body, and the aim is to take chunks out of them, and I have absolutely no doubt they would happily kill other small fish. They are tiny little thugs. Very pretty, but very, very mean, and they should never be kept with other small fish in their tank, and if you do put any other small fish in there, if they survive, they will spend the rest of their life hiding. Though interestingly, this aggression is only aimed at other similar fish, so anything that's roughly an inch long and pale in coloration is going to be ripe for picking on. But so long as their tank mates look sufficiently different from them, the Dawns will just ignore them. Mine happen to have a very handsome black phantom tetra living with them because he doesn't get along with my other male tetras and he constantly nips their fins, and so eventually I got fed up with his antics, and as a bit of cathartic punishment he got put in with the Dawns, and in all honesty they don't bother him at all. They also have a young silver fox in there with them to try and munch through the proliferation of algae that's going on, and they don't bother her neither. In fact, the fox, being of a rather sharky nature, spends quite a lot of her time chasing them. Both of these fish, though, are larger than the Dawns, and they look significantly different. I have made the mistake of putting zebra danios in there with them, because I thought zebra danios are so fast, the Dawns aren't going to be able to catch them, so they're not going to bother trying. Boy, was that a mistake. Within 10 minutes, the Danios were leaping out of the tank in their bid to escape from the Dawns, and I was in a mad panic trying to catch everybody before they all got hurt. So, I suppose the lesson of that one is just trust me when I say these little guys look cute, but they are tiny green piranhas. And so, they really need to live in a tank all by themselves, perhaps maybe just with an oddball in with them, and then you can sit back and watch them harass each other for the fun of it. Another reason why Dawns are a little bit specialist is that they are not the easiest fish to feed. I have a suspicion that as they are a bit unpopular in the fish keeping hobby, they're probably all wild caught, and so I've typically found that they don't really like flakes or pellets or anything like that. They will very happily eat live and frozen foods, or anything that's meaty like beef heart for example. And I have, with an awful lot of effort, managed to wean mine into taking fluval bug bites, but as I say, this did take some persuading and a very gradual introduction. Most prepare food though, they will just spit it straight back out again. Interestingly, despite how savage they can be towards other fish, they don't really show any interest in searching the substrate for shrimps. I've found they will quite happily live with adult Neocaridina and just completely ignore them. Although again, I have absolutely no doubt they would happily take a shrimplet that was foolish enough to swim out into open water when the Dawns are around. So I suppose I class them as somewhat shrimp safe, good for keeping in a cull tank where you don't want numbers to grow exponentially. Overall though, Dawns are very lovely to look at, they are engaging to watch, and once you've got them established and feeding, they are very hardy. Just be extremely careful which other fish you try to house them with. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little video all about the Dawn Tetra. Happy fish keeping everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!